'twas the time of the preacher.
I used to be such a nice guy.
Well, for a man that don't go healed, you run your mouth kind of reckless, don't you?
It's a little too early for being that loud. Hey, too late.
What an incredible Cinderella story. This unknown comes out of nowhere.
I guess I'm the only one that remains unaffiliated.
Welcome to the 4-1 podcast, where for 4 minutes we tackle one topic. Today let's talk about fire. What a great word, fire. It conjures up all kinds of images. Some people hear fire and they think of like a campfire, sitting around, connecting with other people, maybe making some s'mores. Other people, when they hear fire, maybe that brings up thoughts of destruction. Maybe a house fire or a forest fire that has caused a lot of damage. For some, fire denotes judgment, and they think maybe in terms of the Bible and what fire could mean. And for others, fire is a useful tool. It can bring heat and give us something to cook with. There are a lot of different ways to think about fire. When I think about fire, though, sometimes I think about smokers. I know that's a weird place to go, but historically in my life, I've struggled with smokers a little bit. They're interesting people to me, and I don't mean to just label and categorize an entire group of people based on one of their habits. But here's the thing about this particular habit, this particular addiction. I don't understand why smokers are never prepared to handle their addiction. Now, what I mean by that is I have my own stuff. I drink coffee. I need it every morning. I have a caffeine addiction. But never once, not once in my entire life have I ever gone to my neighbor's door and knocked and been like, "Hey, do you have a coffee filter? I need a coffee filter. Can I get a coffee filter from you?" Yeah, I'm prepared for my addiction. But smokers are a little different. Smokers, you know what they always need? A light. Always. It's the strangest thing to me. It's like guy pulls out a cigarette, and the next thing he's patting, checking his pockets, looks around. Hey, anybody got a light? What a weird thing. Now, for me, the other part of this is, growing up in a time and place when people could smoke in restaurants and in different places, and then you had smoking sections and non-smoking sections, and my dad would get really aggravated sometimes with cigarette smoke. And I think I carried some of that into my adulthood. And so I'll admit this to you, and I'm ashamed of it, but I've kind of had an attitude in my life towards smokers. I've been irritated with them, or they're an inconvenience to me. And then I started doing this thing called Pray for One, where I pray for one person every day to share God's love with, and just asking Him to give me someone. Let me encounter somebody today to share your love with. And it started changing the way I look at people. I stopped looking at them as inconveniences or problems or things to avoid or to use to my advantage. Rather, they're objects of God's love. And as it changed the way I looked at people, I noticed it changed the way that people interact with me. For instance, one day I was walking down a street, and a guy walked up to me, and he had a cigarette in his hand, and it was clear he was going to ask me for a light, but he didn't ask. He said, "Hey man, give me a light." He just fully expected that I had a lighter on me and I would give him a light. And he was so convincing in the way he said it, I reached in my pocket because I thought I had a lighter. I didn't have a lighter. There's no reason I would have a lighter. But this guy just assumed, because of the look on my face, I had what he needed. That changed the way I thought about things. You know what? We have exactly what people needed. From that moment on, I started to carry a lighter with me every day. I got one with me right now. Every day, I put this in my pocket to remind me that I have exactly what people need. There's a psalm that says that God makes winds His messengers, flames of fire His servants. Another way of reading that is that He makes His servants flames of fire. If you're a follower of Jesus, you're fire. You're on fire. And you have exactly what people need, what they're desperate for. And so know who you are and be the fire that God's making you to be. Keep praying for one. Hoo-yah!